Wide receivers today, guys. Today we've got the top 20 wide receivers of 2025 season. Fantasy finishes coming from the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast. Let's go! All right. Welcome to the show. This is the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast. We are your hosts, Frankie and Johnny. Welcome in, Frankie. We've got our fourth and final fantasy finish today, the top 20 wide receivers in 2025. We saved this one for the last one because it's so much fun, man. We're talking about some serious studs and some serious draft capital here. But first, man, I'm sorry. This is the day after an Indiana Hoosier.
Look at you. Look at you.
Look at this.
Decked out.
Come on, baby.
You are the Hoosier.
Hell yeah, man. Last night I was watching the game, hitting my Fernando Pendoza while I was watching.
How about that game, man?
What a game right here, baby.
Look at that. Hold it up,
Right here.
Johnny.
Flipping champs, baby. Flipping champs. Now, this is when they beat Ohio State in the Big Ten, but wow, what a just historic season for
Incredible.
IU. Kurt Cignetti is my new favorite daddy. I'm sorry.
Yeah?
He's my daddy. I'm just going to say it, man. But we got to pull this picture up. This is going to be iconic
Gold.
in Indiana. Every newspaper has it
Gold.
today. It is gold. Look at that, man. I mean, just fantastic.
Amazing.
For those guys. Yeah, you got to shout it out. Now, we will be talking about Mr. Fernando Pendoza here when
sure
our
will.
next episode, because he's probably looking at going maybe number one overall, eh, Frank?
Oh, yeah, man. Definitely looking at number one overall prospect. There's quite a few teams that are going to need a quarterback, such as the Raiders, Jets, a ton. So, yeah, man, that. And also, there's some good receivers, man. I mean, Surratt, we've seen for IU be very fucking relevant. And so him now moving forward, I mean, John, he was kind of slated as a third round, fourth round guy early on. And from the NFL draft standpoint, and now he's actually working himself up to maybe a back half day two, or maybe that early round three kind of play. So for me, it's super exciting to see what's going to happen with these guys.
Really fun. Congratulations to all the Indiana Hoosier fans.
Hey,
just great.
You know, I just got to call this out too, man. For all of those SEC fans, I'm here to piss you off a little bit because it's been 3 years in a row. 3 years in a row. We have not seen an SEC team in the national championship. So if SEC is so dominant, I have to ask, well, where are you? Where have you been? I say, are you okay? You know, we went from Michigan to Ohio State to Indiana.
Are we doing a wellness check on
I know.
the SEC
We
right
probably
now?
need to.
Are you guys okay?
Are you guys okay? Do you need a little bit of help?
Right?
Is
Yeah.
Big Ten dominating right now?
Let me
know.
recommend our new sponsor, BetterHelp, for the SEC fan. I'm kidding. BetterHelp, if you're out there, we totally will take your money.
Totally.
100%.
Yeah, please.
Yeah.
That'd be
Yeah.
great.
We're Browns fans, and a lot of our listeners are too. So
They
we
could
actually
use it.
That might be a good
They
sponsorship.
actually
Yeah,
could
better.
be.
Today's Browns loss is brought to you by BetterHelp.
Yeah, exactly. Stay calm. Stay focused. Get in the right headspace.
Oh, I hope we don't get sued over that. Okay. All right, Frank, let's get to the top 20 receivers,
Let's do
baby.
it.
How you feel about that? Yeah.
Doing great. John, before we jump in, I want to call out, before we get to number 20, there were a couple outliers. And guys, I would be remiss if we didn't hit on these super quickly. The first two, I just want to hit on because they actually got injured. And their points per game in half PPR would have put them into the top 7 discussion. And so I do want to just call out two of those guys. The first is Drake London. Guys, we know that Drake London only played really 10 games. It says 11, but it is actually probably 10 because he got hurt during one, and so it was half-assed from that point. But he averaged 13.8 points a game, which would put him for sure into that top 10 discussion. And then absolutely the last, John, is Rashee Rice, only playing 8 games this year, partly due to injury, partly due to the suspension. But he averaged 15.5 points a game. Again, when we talk about the top 5, top 6, top 7, these guys would have been in there. Now, the last guy I also want to call out, JJ. We're not going to hit on him. He did not make top 20. First time in his career, Johnny. And what's fascinating for me, man, he ended up being 28, and it wasn't because he missed time. He ended up playing 16 games. And when you look at and extrapolate that data over those 16 games, he averaged only 9.1 points a game. So an absolutely atrocious year for that of JJ, who we thought, quite honestly, was quarterback proof.
He is not.
He is not.
So that's going to be a big point of contention next year of who's his quarterback.
Totally.
Same with Rashee Rice. When is Patrick Mahomes going to be back? How much value is he going to be drafted in the top 10 without Patrick Mahomes? Drake London, what's the situation there?
Looks
Kevin
like
Stefanski's going to be down there,
Yeah.
right? Is Penix going to be the guy? Is it going to be somebody different?
Kirk?
So we've got some questions going into next year. But don't you worry, guys, because
Got
our
you covered.
last episode here in January 2026, it's going to be a little bit of a sneak preview of what the ADP may be looking like for next year. So we're going to talk about that next week here, guys. All right, Frank, let's get into the top 20 here. Our first guy, number 20, is Stefon Diggs of the New England Patriots, coming in at 20, drafted at 40, Frank.
Whoa, some value.
Yeah. I think we touched on that a tad, did we not?
We sure did. We sure did.
All right, so Stefon Diggs, 162 total fantasy points, averaging 10.1 points per game. Excellent season. Sure helps having Drake May with him. Frankie, talk about Stefon Diggs.
Guys, we called it leading into your drafts. There was no reason why you shouldn't be drafting Stefon Diggs. Of course, he just came off an injury. I understand that. When he was at Houston, it was a bad ACL tear. It was a bad injury. And then what we saw, though, was his progression. And everyone kept calling it out. Well, do you trust this, knowing there's Pop Douglas, knowing that there's a few others on this team, and Stefon Diggs is really going to come in and kind of create some chaos? John, we were on record and said absolutely, based on that value, there's no reason why you shouldn't be targeting him. To the tune of, typically in a lot of the drafts, guys, he was drafted in round 6, 7, or 8, depending on what leagues you were in, and finishing top 20, phenomenal. But here's what's interesting. Guys, this past year, he had 102 targets, 85 receptions, over 1,000 yards receiving, and still 4 touchdowns. Now, quite honestly, the 4 touchdowns outside of his year last year to where he got hurt was actually his lowest since 2016. So when you think about this, even with the lowest amount of touchdowns that he's had since 2016 outside of last year, John, he performed very well. He performed like a true receiver one for that of the Patriots, man. And I think with Drake May developing, with Mike Vrabel being kind of the true alpha in that room, and he's able to check Stefon Diggs in a way to where it processes right for him. Man, I'm telling you, I'm really excited about what Stefon Diggs is going to bring to the table in 2026.
Yeah, it's interesting. Just going through Stefon Diggs here, he did have a very solid season, but I think he was really all floor and no ceiling.
I agree with that.
We look at his stats. He didn't have, in a half-point PPR, he never had a single week over 20 points, which is really interesting.
Really interesting.
It didn't feel that way, and he only had 4 touchdowns total on the season. So I still think there's a ton of upside. I think he's going to be a very solid wide receiver 2 for you. I think he'll be one of the safest guys you can get. We talked about Drake May. We knew he was looking good and was going to be promising this year. We didn't know he was going to be MVP type caliber, but that certainly helps Stefon Diggs. I see them getting another receiver next year. There's got to be some more help. So we'll have to analyze what that's going to do is, get cutting into Stefon Diggs' target share. But I don't think it's going to dig in too much. I think Stefon Diggs is right. His floor is right where it is.
Yeah.
And there could be some chance for upside for him for next year. I think even if they bring somebody else on, it's just going to take some of the Kayshon Boutte targets and Mario Douglas targets and some of the tight end targets. I think Stefon Diggs has his solidified role there.
John, I agree. For me, what this reminds me of is very similar to the Colts. It's funny, we're actually not going to touch on him at all, but I'll call him out. The 21st overall receiver was Michael Pittman Jr. Very similar. Guys, I'm talking, it's almost carbon copy to what they did over this past year. And then you apply that to the situation. John, I think that he is literally an older version of Michael Pittman Jr., especially on the team and based on the team needs. So I agree, man. There wasn't a ton of big boom weeks. It was just a really high floor consistency. So if you had him as your receiver 2 or flex, you were very happy with that.
Yes, you were. All right, Frank, let's get to number 19 here on the list. The number 19 wide receiver is Jalen Waddle, wide receiver for the Miami Dolphins. 162 points, exactly as Stefon Diggs, 10.1 points per game, just like Stefon Diggs. Talk about Jalen Waddle with the Dolphins, man.
I mean, Jalen Waddle was really weird. This one was tough for me, man, because technically he certainly overperformed his ADP, number one. And number two, when you look back over how he performed in comparison to the last 2 years, he was well above where he was in 24 as well as in 2023, or just slightly above in 2023. But what I'm getting at is 100 targets, 64 receptions, 910 yards receiving. He had 6 touchdowns in comparison to that of 2023 where he had 4, though in 2023 he had 1,000 yards. But what I'm getting at is this was still a bit frustrating if you own Jalen Waddle, because there were a few games to where it wasn't like Stephon Diggs, man, in my opinion, to where it was a really high floor all year, it felt like. Yeah, there were a couple single-digit games, I get that. But for more often than not, it was a very, very high floor. For Waddle, it was up and down. I mean, it was like a very, very low floor. I mean, to where your receiver 86 against Cleveland with 1 reception and 15 yards, all the way to absolute boom weeks against that of Atlanta to where he's receiver 4, 99 yards and a touchdown. So for me, man, this was all over the damn place, but this was what was concerning for me for Waddle. Following the bye week in week 12, John, he only eclipsed 5 receptions or more twice. In addition to that, man, he ended up only having 1 touchdown following the bye week and never had more than 72 yards receiving. For me, that is really eye-opening. Now, Tua, right, we know there were a lot of problems with Tua. We know that Mike McDaniel was on the hot seat. You bring in Quinn Ewers, a lot of stuff changes. They end up going more to Darren Waller and not Waddle. Like, a lot of stuff happened. But without Tyreek Hill, I thought that this dude was going to absolutely springboard forward, and he didn't. And so for me, man, this is really interesting. Have we seen the best in Jalen Waddle already, meaning his rookie and sophomore year? Was that the peak? Or do we see that, once they get more stable at quarterback, things will change? And the only reason why I'm saying that is because Mike McDaniel, you can say what you want about a head coach, but from an OC mind, he is a mastermind at calling plays and drawing them up. And so for me, it's a little bit weird. I don't know if Jalen Waddle is going to be on my board next year just because of so much weirdness in Miami, especially now with Jeff Hafley is the new head coach there.
We just can't predict. I mean, at this point, you're right. He was kind of all over the place. It's going to be entirely situational. Who's the head coach?
Yeah.
Who's the starting quarterback? What other pieces do they have around?
Who's the OC?
Who's the OC? Yeah. I mean, what identity is this team going to have? Because he's clearly the one. He's clearly got the talent if the guy can stay on the field, which he did this year. So I don't know. There's going to be so many questions with Jalen Waddle. It's going to be difficult come draft season, but that's why we're here, because we're going to obsess about him. We're going to give you as much information as possible so you can make the decision if you want to draft him or not. All right, let's get to our number 18 wide receiver here. We've got CeeDee Lamb, the Lamb in Dallas. CeeDee Lamb actually drafted at number 3, Frank. Came in at number 18 here. 162 points in fantasy, same as Jalen Waddle and Stephon Diggs, but 12.5 points per game. Talk about what happened with CeeDee Lamb this year.
That's the key, John. 12.5 points a game. Guys, when we talk about this, that immediately catapults him to the top 10. No question about it. So I just want to make sure that that's known. Now, when we look at CeeDee Lamb, guys, it's a product strictly of health this particular year, right? He played a total of 13 games. Again, you really look at it, there were 1 or 2 of those 13 games to where he was banged up, and you knew that he was really just a distraction at that point in time. In addition, you saw the true emergence of George Pickens. And so for me, man, that to me was a little bit unexpected. I don't think anybody would have seen George Pickens as a top 4 guy. I mean, certainly you could have made the call out that he would have been top 25. I think everybody would have would have went down that path with you for the most part. But top 4 is crazy. So for me, guys, looking at what CeeDee Lamb did, even in 13 games, he still had 117 targets, 75 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and he had 3 touchdowns. That right there, the 3 touchdowns was the lowest in his career by almost double, or by half, should I say. Right, his rookie year, he had 5. Everything else, he was 6 or more every other year. So for me, man, looking at this, I have no problem with CeeDee Lamb. If anything, guys, this will probably help his ADP even more so for next year, meaning he's going to fall down the boards a bit. Now you're going to see the boards pumping up some of those running backs. They're going to pump up Puka, JSN, and Amon-Ra, and a few of these other guys. And for me, that's gold if you're a believer in CeeDee Lamb, which I am certainly one of them. I think that this Dallas offense really showed well. Dak Prescott was phenomenal. We talked about Jake Ferguson. We talked about Javonte Williams. And John, to pair him with that of George Pickens and George Pickens with him, I just really see this being a massive success moving into next year. So for me, this is going to be great for fantasy football because you can get him at a cheaper price point.
The two guys I see that you're going to be able to do that with are going to be Justin Jefferson and CeeDee Lamb.
Yes.
And I don't think they should be in the top 5. I just don't. The quarterback situation for JJ, like we talked about, and then with CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens.
Yeah, that's real.
Listen, it's a real problem here.
Yeah.
I mean, CeeDee Lamb is not the only guy getting targets on this team, and it is a high-flying offense. Certainly, he would have been a top 10, maybe a top 5 guy had he played every game, but still, that's a real thing. It's going to take targets away, and you can't put him in the same likes as JSN. You can't put him with Puka. They're just different things, man. So we're going to have to be watching that for next year for sure. All right, let's move on here. Let's get to our number 17 wide receiver here. We've got a rookie, baby. Let's go. Emeka Egbuka of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 163 fantasy points, 10.2 points per game. Emeka Egbuka was drafted as wide receiver 36. Comes in at 17. Frank, this is a guy we were all over early in the season. Couple of injuries helped us be right on that one. Let's be fair.
Definitely.
Talk to us about Emeka. That was kind of a roller coaster ride with him this year. Talk about it.
First half, phenomenal. First half, he was the golden boy. He was changing everyone's mind. Because as much as we were all over him, especially from the rookie review guys, if you get an opportunity, don't miss out the rookie reviews. I promise we do a ton of deep dive, a ton of film watching, and a lot of times we're netting out in a positive way for exactly who we're describing and why we're describing these particular players as rookies. Now, with Emeka, man, it was really interesting. The first half, and I literally have this pulled up, all the way up really, man, until the bye week. I mean, he was receiver 3, receiver 8, receiver 1, was more in the top 25 than he wasn't following the bye week, which ended up being week 9. So if you think about this, Chris Godwin's coming back. Then you have Jalen McMillan coming back. You have Mike Evans coming back, right? Bucky Irving ends up getting hurt. So Rashad White steps in, which is another receiver-esque type of piece that's going to take away targets. John, he dropped off the face of the planet. And I'm saying that, so after the bye week in week 9, week 10, he was receiver 4. Phenomenal. After that, he never was better than receiver 38. Not better than receiver 38 after week 10. And so, guys, what does that mean? That means he had over 64 yards one time. And what's even crazier, he didn't have a touchdown after week 10. After he started with 2 in week 1, 1 in week 2, he had 5 touchdowns in the first 5 weeks alone and then drops off a cliff. And so for me, guys, this is really touch and go with Emeka. I'm actually putting him in the Jalen Waddle situation because it's going to depend on is Mike Evans coming back. That's going to be huge. We know Chris Godwin's coming back because he's under contract. Then you have Jalen McMillan, right, that's going to be healthy coming back. So for me, this is really going to be heavily dependent on Mike Evans because if Mike Evans is coming back, you need to look at Emeka Egbuka more as the back half than as the front half of what we saw him. And so therefore, he's going to drop out of the top 20 in my opinion, right? Baker doesn't have the ability to provide 4 or 5 mouths at the level of what we saw when people were hurt. So for me, man, as
not
great as it was, not without Liam Cohen, right?
Ding, there's our Liam Cohen reference.
Exactly. So for me, man, I just think we need to level set expectation. I'm a big Buckeyes fan, OH baby. And so, you know what I mean? That's one of those things. But the reality is in fantasy football, there's going to be better value out there.
We've got to look at the target share going into 26.
Totally.
Yeah, that could change too. Real quick, Frank, we do the rookie reviews, and I love it when a guy ends up in our fantasy finish and we could talk about it. Very quickly, I want to pull it up as well. Your comp for Emeka Egbuka coming into this season. This is pre-draft, before the guy even set foot on an NFL field. you said was Amon-Ra St. Brown. How do you feel about that now that we've seen it?
I feel fantastic. I think the way he moved.
It was a good comp, man.
Yeah, man, it was a great comp because, again, we're looking at Amon-Ra not as the developed Amon-Ra that just got a $130 million contract. We're looking at Amon-Ra for where he was as a rookie when we saw him explode in the back half to where, John, you and I are saying, holy shit, man, the sun god's for real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Except the only difference was it was flipped.
You know what I mean? Half of the season because
half.
he got to be the star
exactly
to start off. He was the guy by default. So that totally different situation. We usually see it where the back half they come on strong, not the front half and then die in the back half. So it was very unusual.
And John, to that point, just want to call that out. Like 127 targets as a rookie. I mean,
awesome.
that's that Amon-Ra level stuff. 63 receptions, almost 1,000 yards. And he had those 6 touchdowns, guys. So really great rookie year, and I'm excited to see him continue to build off it.
All right, we've got a surprise here, number 16, Frank. I love it when this kind of stuff happens, man. That's when you know it was a chaotic season, when a waiver wire pickup ends up at number 16 here.
Crazy.
It's Michael Wilson of the Arizona Cardinals, okay? Coming in at 16, 163 fantasy points, 10.2 points per game. Frankie, this guy wasn't drafted. He was 87 wide receiver on the board. Waiver wire pickup. Talk about Michael Wilson this year.
Guys, this is insane. So I'm going to break down like what it looked like overall. So 126 targets, 78 receptions. He eclipsed over 1,000 yards receiving, and he also had 7 receiving touchdowns. Okay, that's more than Diggs, Waddle, Lamb, Emeka. Like Michael Wilson came out of absolute nowhere and exploded. And here's why I say this is what's interesting. Everybody, I want you to stop what you're doing and pull out the game log. Okay, pull out the game log of Michael Wilson here. And here's what's fascinating. Once Kyler Murray got hurt and was out, and then you saw Jacoby Brissett step in after the bye week in week 9, Michael Wilson exploded. Prior to that, guys, he never had more than 4 receptions in one game all year. He never had more than 6 total targets in one game all year. And quite honestly, he had 1 touchdown leading up to week 14. Okay? From that point, John, after the bye week, guys, he ended up having multiple times to where he was top 7, to the point to where that starts at week 9 all the way down to week 17. Guys, he had 1, 2, 3, 4 times he was top 7 and 5 times he was top 10. Guys, and this is
awesome.
This is incredible. This is truly incredible. When you talk about Emeka Egbuka, flip it, because here was the opposite of what Emeka did and then some. All of what he did, John, in the first half, even before the bye week, he never had more than 44 yards receiving in a game. And then he explodes. Man, what I'm telling you guys listening and watching is have this man circled. What we have seen is he's going to have very good ADP value, because I doubt people are going to believe it, because Marvin Harrison is still there. Number 1. Number 2 is, in my personal opinion, I'm a Buckeye and I love Marvin Harrison Jr. Michael Wilson was the receiver 1 on that team. And I think moving forward, we're going to start seeing him get more and more respect from that fact. Now, again, head coach is fired. Cardinals are complete in dismay. We're not sure what's going to happen, who's going to be their head coach, so on and so forth. All of that's going to change the landscape of bleeding into 2026. But my Lord, give the dude flowers where flowers are earned. Phenomenal back half of the year. Absolute explosion. And I'm sure totally helped your fantasy team if you had him in the back half.
Just insane. I mean, you're right. This is a guy I'm circling because no, he's not going to be drafted as a, wide receiver 2. Not even really a flex. This is going to be a depth piece on your team next year, but I'm circling his ass.
Definitely.
Because he's proven it, man. He's got the talent. He's got the ability to be able to do it. And depending on the situation, he could. Weeks 14 through 18, he scored every single week.
It's crazy.
In week 14, he scored twice. I mean, it was just nuts. 15 catches, 10 catches, 11 catches, 9 catches. Man, the guy proved it. So, yeah, depending on the situation, absolutely this will be a guy that I'll want on my bench as some depth and look for opportunities to be able to plug him in. Okay, let's get to our number 15 wide receiver. We've got T. Higgins. There's T. Higgins.
There he is.
T. Higgins of the Cincinnati Bengals, 166 total fantasy points, 11.9, almost 12 points per game. That's fantastic out of T. Higgins. T. Higgins was drafted as the number 13 wide receiver, came in here at number 15, right about where we thought he was going to be. Frankie, talk about it.
Guys, T. Higgins finally had the year we were all hoping he was going to have. Even though you drafted him at 13, potentially ADP overall, or from a receiver standpoint, and he finished at 15, guys, it's because he missed a few games. And when you look at what his body of work, it was arguably his best year he's ever had in the NFL, which is insane to think, knowing that Burrow, right, got hurt, and then they had Jake Browning and Joe Flacco, and then back to Burrow and everything else. Guys, it was fascinating. He ended up having 98 targets, 59 receptions, 846 yards. I get it. None of those were his career high. Here's what was. 11 touchdowns. Guys, we saw him get above the hump for the touchdown 11 threshold. Last year he had 10, taking another step with 11. Absolutely phenomenal. Guys, he is the best receiver 2 on any fantasy football team and or NFL team, in my personal opinion. It's just hard to maybe you would technically say CeeDee Lamb or George Pickens for Dallas, or maybe it's Davante with Puka, something like that. You can make an argument for T. Higgins because of the way the offense is constructed, knowing that Jamar Chase is going to get his, but T. Higgins is absolutely that red zone guy. So for me, man, I love T. Higgins. I love what he was able to do in only 14 games, maybe even 13 games at that point, and averaging almost 12 points a game. Absolutely fantastic for your fantasy team.
Well, let me ask you this. I mean, this majority of the season was without Joe Burrow.
Yeah.
Should we consider T. Higgins as a top 10 receiver if assuming Joe Burrow's there all year?
Probably. Top 12 for sure.
You're talking one of his best fantasy finishes of his career, and most of the season was without Joey B. So very interesting, man.
Very
have to be looking at him next year and see where we want to put him, because T. Higgins is always that guy in like a round 2 situation where you're like, do I go there? Is he going to do it this year? He's done it every year. And
totally.
He certainly did it this year with really bad quarterback play. So,
yep.
Yeah. All right, let's move on here. Let's get to our number 14 wide receiver on the season. We got another rookie here.
Hey.
Yeah, all right. This is the guy we loved in the offseason as well. Great year for this guy as a rookie. Tetairoa McMillan. T-Mac himself, 167, almost 168 fantasy points, 10.5 points per game. Like to see that. Tetairoa McMillan was drafted at number 25. Love that. Came in at 14. Frankie, talk about T-Mac.
Excellent value. John, you were all over T-Mac this year. That was you, baby. You loved him. You saw it. You felt it. You believed it. And I'll tell you what, I was on the train. I just don't know how far on the train I was, or how long I was on that train with you. But man,
that was probably a disbelief of Bryce Young.
That's exactly what that was. 100%.
That was everyone's hesitation with Tetairoa McMillan. Is Bryce Young an actual competent NFL quarterback? That was the question.
And I think it showed, man. I think this year, Bryce Young quieted a lot of people. And it's because he took him to the playoffs. And then you add in Tetairoa McMillan, a rookie, first year, 122 targets, 70 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and ended up having 7 touchdowns. Guys, this dude, but John, I remember my comp to him was Drake London. And I can't even think of a better comp, honestly, than what he showed. The 50-50 jump ball was phenomenal. His route running, sure, it was a little bit lackluster at times, but that's to be expected. When you have a big body guy on the outside, you're not asking him to run a route like an Amon-Ra St. Brown or like an Emeka Egbuka, for example. So for me, that's going to develop and continue getting better, which is so exciting. And for the Panthers, congratulations, man. It's a Mike Evans, Drake London kind of feel with Tetairoa McMillan. And I think you guys finally found your true receiver 1. And what we saw, Bryce Young and him had some really good chemistry. This is actually a very underrated, kind of exciting thing for Carolina and for fantasy moving forward, is that I think Bryce Young can build off this year and potentially be, into that top 15 discussion as long as he ends up continuing to develop. And then you put pieces around him like this, and like that of Rico Dowdle and, others, like if Leggett can start getting going, or maybe it's Coker. We saw Coker start coming along towards the end there. Get him a few other pieces, and this is going to be fun to watch. Great rookie season by McMillan.
Really, really great. 9 games with over 8 targets, 8 or more targets in a game. I mean, that's what you want in fantasy football, man. That's what we talk about when talent meets opportunity.
That's right.
T-Mac had the talent, and we knew the opportunity was going to be there. And sure as shit, it was. I see this team only getting better, and I see just better targets for T-Mac.
Yep.
Not quite as much focus either. I think they can add some pieces to this team to take away the pressure from him as well, man, and really make him a Drake London next year. So I'll be looking at him next year, man, all over it. All right, let's get to number 13, another surprise guy here, Frank.
Big time.
Due to injury, I love it when these guys step up, just like a Michael Wilson, very similar in this aspect here. Number 13, Wan'Dale Robinson of the New York Football Giants, man. 172 fantasy points, 10.7 points per game, baby. He had the floor and he had the ceiling. Talk about him, man.
Incredible. 140 targets. Now, guys, remember, Malik Neighbors.
God, I wish that was Malik Neighbors so badly, don't you?
It's so bad. It's so bad. 140 targets, man, and a rookie throwing him the ball majority of the year. Yeah. Absolutely phenomenal. Here's what's fascinating, too. He also had 140 targets last year. So now we're seeing back-to-back years to where this cat has had 140 targets. Where there's smoke, there's fire, meaning this is a guy, again, we talked about Michael Wilson being circled. Wan'Dale Robinson, for me, is certainly being circled. 92 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Guys, in full PPR, he was a monster, right? When you talk about the amount of receptions and yardage, again, a little bit lackluster on the touchdowns, but that's just because of the way this team was set up. You have Jackson Dart that's running it in. You had Cam Scatteraboo that was running him in. And they certainly were targeting that of Theo Johnson as well. So for me, man, this is a guy, knowing Malik Neighbors is coming back, knowing that's happening, I still really like Wan'Dale Robinson in full PPR leagues. Because again, the key call out was 140 targets as well last year when Malik had a full year as well. So man, I'm excited for this team. You add in John Harbaugh into this mix, and I'm telling you, man, look at what Rashad Bateman was able to do last year, 2 years ago. Look at what his receiver twos have been able to produce on his particular teams. And then I actually think Wan'Dale Robinson is way more talented than those guys. So I love where this kid is heading.
All right, let's get to our number 12, top 12 here. Wide receiver, it's Zay Flowers of the Baltimore Ravens. 172.5 fantasy points, 10.8 points per game. Felt very quiet, 10.8 points per game, didn't it? Yeah. Zay Flowers was drafted as the number 27 wide receiver, so definitely returning some value here at 12. Talk to us about Zay Flowers.
Guys, he had a PR year across the board. Again, super quietly. Not a lot of analysts were talking about it. Not a lot of people were kind of believing in him. He had 118 targets, 86 receptions, 1,200 yards with a 14.08 yards per catch and 5 touchdowns. Guys, again, where Zay Flowers' problem lies is it's not on the targets, it's not on the receptions, it's not on the yards, it's on the touchdowns. If we can get that up to the 8, 9, 10 mark, Zay Flowers is going to be an absolute gold mine. And then when you start thinking about, okay, well, where was he drafted this past year? John, you mentioned the ADP, but guys, from a round standpoint, in our 14-team league, that's absolutely crazy. Now, again, there's a keeper involved as well, 1 keeper per team, but he's right around that round 4 and round 5 mark. Guys, for him to produce a top 12 product and knowing that he could have been your flex piece if you went receiver, kept a running back or something like that, absolutely phenomenal. Zay Flowers is a guy that needs to be on a lot of people's radars for next year.
I mean, is Zay Flowers just kind of is he Wan'Dale Robinson with a better quarterback?
Yeah.
That's
and with less competition.
Yeah, with less competition. I mean, he scored in week 1, had a monster week, came out with 25 fantasy points and a half PPR. He didn't score another touchdown until week 15 in the playoffs. So I think that's why it was so quiet. It was just kind of a ho-hum floor for him for so long, for most of the season. And his touchdowns came at the end of the season, so it didn't really help you out. He had 1 touchdown until your playoffs.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild. We're just going to have to see what's going on there next year with the scheme. The whole coaching carousel is completely gone. So
does it's going to be a whole stay?
I know.
I mean, we were talking about that.
Crazier things can happen. This could be a new coach that comes in, a new organization, strategy that could say, let's load up. We know what we had with Lamar. We don't have necessarily all the pieces around him. It's all on him. let's get something out of him and maybe look at the future here. I don't know. I mean, crazier
Totally.
things have happened, man.
Is there a trade to the Raiders, knowing that they have the number 1 overall pick and the Raiders give an absolute haul, a Deshaun Watson-esque kind of haul for that of, for that, right? But you think
I
about
think
it.
teams have learned about that one.
True,
guys.
for sure.
Yeah,
but the difference is Lamar is 2-time MVP. You know what I mean? That's the difference. And so, again, do I think Lamar is going to be a Raven? More than likely, yes. And with that, Zay Flowers should perform again next year.
All right, let's move on to number 11 here. We've got Jameson Williams of the Detroit Lions, 177 fantasy points, 11.1 points per game. Didn't realize he was that solid this year, man. Drafted at 28 and came in at 11. Talk about Jamo.
Guys, he was like a Michael Wilson-esque kind of player once more. And what I mean by that is the first few weeks outside of week 2, it was rough sledding, man. It was. He wasn't getting the targets. It just would look like, it was pretty much the Amon-Ra, Jahmyr Gibbs kind of show. And then after that, everything really changed. And starting in week 9 to where he ended up having, top 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 top 15 finishes in a row starting for week 10. So Jamo came on big time in the back half of the year. Now, what's fascinating in total, he had 102 targets, 65 receptions, over 1,100 yards receiving, and 7 touchdowns. Guys, collectively, he was better in every aspect in comparison to what he did the prior year, and certainly better than obviously what we saw in his rookie and sophomore year. So for me, man, I'm really excited about Jamo. Now, the only call out, when he started doing well is when Laporta and things started to change. Yep. So I just want, am I a believer? Do I think Jamo is going to be 11 next year, John? No, I don't think he's going to be that. I think Zay Flowers has an opportunity. We mentioned Drake London. We mentioned JJ. I mean, shit, man, we haven't even talked about Garrett Wilson, right? So there's some of these other guys that just because of the situation or due to injury or whatever it may be, I think is going to be moving ahead of Jamo. Now, with that being said, I think Jamo's arguably one of the best flexes you can get. And I think that he's super safe in the sense of super safe in the sense of that he's going to give you the ability to hit those high ceilings, but also know that when there's a ton more mouths to feed, when you add in Brock Wright or Sam Laporta, or you start seeing maybe a receiver 3 like Tesla come in, that's all going to start taking a little bit away from Jamo. And if Montgomery is not there, how does that change the landscape for the running backs? Meaning, if Jahmyr Gibbs is on the field more often than what he even was, and we know he commands more targets as well than certainly Monty, how does that change Jamo? So for me, man, I'm in the sense of phenomenal year. You loved having him. Level set expectation moving into next year. He's a guy that we might see his ADP actually a little too rich. And so you're going to have to reach for him if you want Jamo, which I will not be doing.
You brought up the right mindset here, Frank, because looking at his game log, as soon as Sam Laporta got hurt, week 11, his targets went apeshit. 7 targets, 10, 9, 10, 9, 8. That's what it was. And that's where he got his touchdowns as well. He scored, 4 or 5 touchdowns in that stretch too. So yeah, it's completely tied to, he's a boom-bust flex player in my mind, unless Sam Laporta's off the field.
Yeah.
He's taking those middle targets, and you can see it. It's all laid out for us right there on paper, guys. So keep that in mind. I do agree. I think his ADP will probably be too high, and you're going to need an injury to Laporta or a change in offensive scheme to get that value.
Yep.
So agreed. Football playoffs are here, and Underdog is the best place to get in on all the gridiron action. Playing Underdog, it's super easy, guys. Just pick whether your favorite players are going to go higher or lower on stats like touchdowns, rushing yards, receptions, and so much more. Get them right, and you can win up to 5,000 times your cash. Frankie, do we have any pick'ems for everybody this week?
We sure do, Johnny. We're looking at 2 players this week. The first comes in during that Seattle and Rams game. We're going with Colby Parkinson, higher than 14.5 receiving yards, and we're pairing that with the other game being in the AFC with R.J. Harvey playing that of the New England Patriots, and we're going to go higher than 9.5 receiving yards.
Let's go. So what are you waiting for? Download the app today and use the promo code FRANKLY to score $75 in bonus entries when you play your first $5. That's promo code FRANKLY. Underdog. Make picks, win money. Must be 18 plus. 19 plus in Alabama and Nebraska. 19 plus in Colorado for some games. 21 plus in Arizona, Massachusetts, and Virginia. Present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. See assets.underdogfantasy.com/web/playing terms_DFS_point details. Offer not valid in Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, and Pennsylvania. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit www.ncpgambling.org. In New York, call the 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY to 467-369. All right, let's move on here. We're at number 10. Top 10, baby. Let's go. Here's a guy who had quite a frustrating year as a top 10 wide receiver. A little bit going on there with this team. It's A.J. Brown of the Philadelphia Eagles. 181 fantasy points, 12.1 points per game. He did have a nice average here for you. He was drafted as the number 10 wide receiver and came in as the number 10 wide receiver. So was it just a really bumpy ride getting us to where we expected him to be?
Definitely. I mean, John, this was weird. Like, this A.J. Brown year was the weirdest in his career for me. Because even though last year was actually pretty damn comparable, guys, I mean, we're only talking a few point difference. It just felt like he was more elite last year. Yeah. And then what we've seen is, like, with the OC change, and Dallas Goedert took a massive step forward, and then really it was kind of like they're spreading the ball around a lot more and not hyper targeting him until really the back half of the year. It was just weird, man. It felt off. And it's so much so, I mean, we might not see A.J. Brown as an Eagle. I mean, I think that there's some legitimacy to this. I think that teams like the Bills, this is exactly what they're missing with Josh Allen. They need a guy of that caliber. You know, there's other teams out there that could really crave, like, talk about the Patriots, right? If you get an A.J. Brown to pair with Stephon Diggs, and again, teams that have the cap space to do this, like, this is what would be
crazy.
Don't
do that to Drake May, please. I mean, Vrabel, don't do that to Drake May.
It would be crazy.
If both of those guys fighting each other on the side, I mean, come on.
It would be, dude, how wild would that be?
Like, Stephon Diggs has been good, and he's been a great leader, and he hasn't been a
Don't upset the apple cart.
Just don't upset him. Don't bring any other receivers unless they're not as good as Stephon Diggs.
Right, just bring
A.J.
rookies.
Brown would destroy that team, I think. I really do.
But to your point, that's the problem with A.J. Brown is what we're seeing is he's kind of a head case. He's like what Stephon Diggs was a little bit, except he's like, he should be better based on his frame and based on everything else and what we're looking at, man. He had 121 targets, 78 receptions, just eclipsed 1,000 yards, guys. So, I mean, just 1,003. And then he ended up having 7 touchdowns. And here's what's interesting. A.J. Brown, for the last 3 years in a row, 7 touchdowns per year. Okay, so we're seeing a plateau here. And then in addition, outside of that 2023 year to where he had 106 receptions and 158 targets, the reality is, man, in 1,400 yards, the reality is he's floating around that 1,000-yard mark pretty consistently outside of 2 years. So for me, knowing that the Eagles are firing their OC, knowing that there's a change happening, if he decides to stay, there's a bit concerned here, man, because I don't know if I'm willing to actually draft A.J. Brown because he's probably going to be around the same ADP. I think that there's too much turmoil. When you have to wait, John, until pretty much that back half of the year for him to really explode. I mean, there was a viral moment about it, right? To where he was telling the fans, listen, guys, bench me then, like verbatim saying, bench me. So for me, man, he's a bit of a head case. I'm actually going to stray away from him in 2026 until we see a few changes come up because he was a lot of stress for fantasy owners this year.
Yeah. It depends where he's drafted. I mean, looking at his game log, though, I mean, God, the guy was a fucking target monster, Frank.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, he did have those games
10,
where he
9,
completely
8,
disappeared, with 1 target. He had another game with 3 targets, another game with 2 targets. Other than that, they were all over. Every game was over 7 targets, man. 8. And then at the end, like you said, after week 11 targets, 10, 12, 13, 12. I don't know. I just think he's getting the targets. When you see the targets and the talent, I want that guy on my team.
Sure.
So I don't really care what team he's on. If he can continue to do that, he's whining and bitching because every 4 games he disappears. All right, well, you got Devonta Smith, you got Goddard, you got Barkley, you've got Jalen Hurts. You're a Super Bowl team. Shut the fuck up and catch the ball and get it. You know what I mean? I mean, that's the way I look at it. You're on a team with excellent roster. You're not going to be the only guy. Go back to Tennessee and be the alpha then on a team that needs you.
Yeah,
that's
totally.
the way I look at it. But I'm still drafting this guy. It just depends on where he is.
So if he's
100%.
at the same ADP, let's just say he's at 10, which means you got to take him second round. Are you willing to take him second round? That's my point.
Yeah, the upside, it's not a second round upside guy.
Correct.
I think he'll return you top 15 value.
Sure.
But I think he's a low end wide receiver 1, maybe a high end wide receiver 2.
Yeah.
I'm not putting second round value on that.
Sure.
I'm just not. I'm sorry. I want more upside. I want more stability, I guess, with an offense. Yeah. All right, let's move on here. We're going to get into the top 10. We're at number 9. Courtland Sutton of the Denver Broncos. Love seeing him in the top 10, man. 181 points, 11.4 points per game. Little low points per game for a top 10 guy.
Definitely.
Here, Frank. Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about Courtland Sutton. Where was he drafted here? Courtland Sutton was drafted as the wide receiver 21, so returned great value for you this year. Talk about it.
Guys, he had a great year. 124 targets, 74 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and he ended up having 7 touchdowns as well. Again, when we look at, so this is a great example. This is a perfect example for me. When looking at the difference between A.J. Brown and Courtland Sutton, John, I can get almost the same exact player, in a sense, from a fantasy output perspective, except I can get him a round and a half cheaper. Yeah. Like for Courtland Sutton, that is my point. Courtland Sutton, I mean, there were points. John, remember this. I even came on record. There's a reel that went viral. Man, did I get a ton of shit for it. But it was all about, hey, we have to have an uncomfortable conversation with Troy Franklin. And it was leading up to the bye week for the Broncos. Troy Franklin was outperforming Courtland Sutton for almost 5 weeks in a row, or it was like 5 out of 6 weeks. And so after the bye week, it was like everything changed. It was the Courtland Sutton show. It didn't matter what was going on. They're force feeding him, and it proved to be very successful. So for me, Courtland Sutton's another guy. He's not going to have top 10 ADP. There's no question about it. Because again, there's those other guys, the Garrett Wilsons, the JJs, the CeeDee Lambs, et cetera, Drake Londons, that are going to be in 2026 standings above Courtland Sutton. That I love. That I absolutely love. So for me, Courtland Sutton is the perfect receiver 2 based on where you can get him from an ADP value perspective and the output that we're seeing here. It was fun to own him because I had him in 2 leagues.
Agreed. And it's the opposite conversation of what we were talking about with A.J. Brown.
Yes.
A.J. Brown, because of the name value, he won a Super Bowl. He's on an incredible team.
Totally.
He's always been a top 10 receiver. That name value, Courtland Sutton doesn't have that.
No.
You know, Courtland Sutton's not a guy you got to stare at in the second round or so. So that's the value. Hold off on A.J. Brown. Go for Courtland Sutton.
Totally.
Young quarterback who loves throwing to him. You know, a great head coach. These guys are making a Super Bowl run this year. So, yeah, I'm with you 100% on that, man. Good call. All right, let's move on here. We've got number 8 wide receiver coming in. It's Nico Collins. Very quiet year for Nico Collins here, Frank, of the Houston Texans. 190 fantasy points, 12.7 points per game. Points per game are fantastic here, Frank. Nico Collins came in at number 8. Nico Collins was drafted as the number 6 wide receiver. So not bad of where we thought he'd be. Talk about Nico.
Guys, I think if you had Nico, you were pretty happy. I think like outside of a few early weeks, I think for the most part, you should have been pretty happy. He was floating around receiver 15 and like pretty much receiver 4 to receiver 15 quite often. I mean, he had 120 targets, 71 receptions, over 1,100 yards receiving and 6 touchdowns. But what's crazy is, man, he second best in his career of 15.73 yards per catch. He was absolutely the downfield threat for that of the Houston Texans. So for me, man, moving forward, I really like Nico. I think he's a very safe pick. If you're looking for a very safe receiver 1 on a team, Nico Collins is your guy. Because for me, man, he has a little bit higher floor than that of an A.J. Brown. I don't know if he has as high of a ceiling as A.J. Brown has, if I'm being completely honest, but he's a bit higher of a floor. And for me, man, when you look at his game log, like, it was pretty interesting. I mean, sure, I guess I mentioned the first few weeks, it was tough, like especially week 1, 4 points and a half PPR, week 4, 9 points. But then he went on a stretch from week 9 pretty much to all the way week 15, John, to where he only had one single digit week in half PPR. So for me, you were thrilled to have Nico Collins, and he ended up being exactly who you needed him to be leading into the playoffs. So again, what we need to see from him, though, is an uptick in touchdowns. We need to see him get into those double digits in order to really be able to crack, that top 5, top 6, not even top 6, that top 5, top 4. And then if we see him do that, man, sky's the limit for that offense. And here's one other call. I think he has the opportunity to get there next year. I think that with Tank Dell going to be coming back, remember that Tank Dell was a huge piece of this offense and he got hurt. So if we can see Tank Dell coming back and be able to take away some of that defense, you have Jaden Higgins, who will be a second-year guy. We saw a lot of promise in him, who was a rookie this past year at Iowa State. So I think that there's going to be a lot of good things to come, which means there's going to be a little bit less kind of pressure off of Nico Collins or on Nico Collins. So for me, man, you liked where you drafted him. You liked the output. I like seeing Nico Collins.
All right, let's get to number 7 here. Number 7 wide receiver is Davante Adams of the Los Angeles Rams. Let's just point out that we haven't talked about Puka yet either, so clearly in the top 7. Matthew Stafford supported 2 top 7 receivers this year, man. Just crazy. Awesome. 193 total fantasy points, 13.8 points per game for Davante Adams. Davante was drafted as the wide receiver 19, came in at 7. Let's go. We were all over that this year. Take your victory lap, Frank.
John, this was interesting, man. He had 114 targets, 60 receptions, only 789 yards, but he had tied his best output from a touchdown perspective. 14 touchdowns. I don't know if there was a better red zone target in my life than I have seen be that of Davante Adams. He's just
4
insane.
games with multi-touchdowns.
He's
4
insane.
Multi-touchdown games for you. Yeah, huge.
John, we're rolling back the clock on this dude. I mean, guys, his rookie year was 2014, I believe. And we're talking, this was year 12 technically then. So for what I'm saying, man, we rolled back the clock on this dude. The Stafford breathed life into him, and then he didn't have to be the main guy. And that's what made Davante so special, is because he could just do his thing and let Puka do his thing and know Stafford's still going to find him. And man, it was beautiful to see. I mean, this Rams offense across the board, what I have realized, John, is that when we were a little bit nervous about Stafford early on, and that of Adams and that of Puka, it was because of Stafford's back injury in their offseason. Moving forward, there should never be any hesitancy in drafting Davante Adams, in my eyes. When you look at what he's been able to do, John, since 2020, he's never finished outside of the top 15. Not once. Has not finished outside of the top 15. And even since 2016, he's finished 1 time out of the top 15. Guys, what I'm getting at is this dude is as stable as a piece as it can come. And I promise you this, I will be drafting him again next year.
He is T. Higgins on steroids.
Yes.
That's what it is. He's the wide receiver too. He is.
Yep.
But he's on steroids, man. I mean, the guy just was a touchdown machine. It's
incredible.
Beautiful. It's goddamn beautiful. Now, next year, how are you going to look at Davante Adams? I mean, he's going to be a top 15 guy off the board, most likely.
Sure.
Do you think he's going to be one of those guys that'll be too high, too much value? Or do you think it doesn't matter where he is in the ADP, he's going to return it?
I think it's the latter. I think it doesn't matter where he is on the ADP because of who's at the helm. When you have McVay, when you have Stafford, and knowing that you have Puka, again, not all of this is falling on Davante, that's gold. That's all I need to know. Davante didn't look like he lost a step either. A lot of times, some of these older guys, you can see the route running ends up taking a little bit of a hit. They're about a half a step behind in their movements and head movements and shakes and things like that. Davante's, it honestly looked like it improved, which was disgusting to even say. So for me, man, if you can get Davante as a receiver 2 on your team, you will be so happy about that decision.
He missed the last 2 games of the season for you, too, in your playoffs.
So
you
good
can
point.
Add 2 more games to that. He was number 7, missing 2 games, right? Okay. All right, let's move on here. We got number 6. Number 6 wide receiver is Chris Olave. Surprising. I feel like it's a guy I never talked about the entire fantasy season. Like, that just wasn't reason to talk about him very much. Chris Olave of the New Orleans Saints comes in with 219 fantasy points. By the way, that's a 30-point jump from where Davante Adams was. There's a little bit of a teardrop here, Frank.
Good call out.
Yeah, 13.7 points per game, averaging the same as Davante Adams. Chris Olave, Frank. Who the fuck were his quarterbacks this year, by the way?
I mean, we're talking Spencer Rattler and rookie Tyler Shugg. That is who was throwing this man the ball. Mind you, for most of the season, he had Rashid Shaheed. You had Alvin Kamara to start the year. You had Juwan Johnson. You had, Taysom Hill, which we thought Taysom Hill could potentially build off of what he did last year. And
we just didn't know what this team was going to do.
Of course.
He was drafted as the wide receiver 34, Frank. Chris Olave, and he comes in at 6. Where was the disconnect? Where was the lack of respect? Where was this?
John, for me, it's understanding and remembering, right, the 2023 year. People forgot, including myself. I didn't necessarily forget. I just didn't believe that he could replicate that with the team that he had around him. He did more. He did much more. And here's what's crazy. This year, 156 targets in comparison to 2023, 138. This year, he had 100 receptions. In 2023, he had 87. This year, he had 1,163 yards receiving. In 2023, he had 1,123. This year, he had 9 receiving touchdowns. In 2023, which was his highest, he had 5. Everywhere he could improve, he did. And what was even better is that he showed that he can be a true receiver 1. Like, case in point, end of story, he is a true receiver 1. And even more crazy was that it was Tyler Shugg, a rookie, throwing him the ball. And that is what's wild for me to wrap my head around. And so for me, man, moving forward, Chris Olave is super interesting because he is very injury prone. So in 2026, you need to be sure that if you're targeting Chris Olave, because you will see a bump on his ADP, I can promise you that. Especially knowing that Tyler Shugg, they've already committed to him and then some. Kellen Moore's coming out like, no, this is our guy. They're going to pair him with Chris Olave. They're probably going to get another piece for him, knowing they shipped away Rashid Shaheed, and maybe there's a change at the running back position, maybe with Kamara and Devin Neal, which Devin Neal kind of underperformed because of injury. So for me, man, if you want Chris Olave, you're going to have to draft him a bit higher than maybe what you like. Now, you could end up seeing another year like what we saw this year, or you could certainly end up catching the injury bug with him because we've seen multiple years now with it. So very interesting, man. But overall, I'm excited to see this cat. It's great to see another Buckeye receiver doing his thing, but I'm cautious about Chris Olave for next year.
I am too. It's all about where is he going to be placed? Yeah. Where is his value? Where is he going to be in the ADP? I have a sneaking suspicion that he's going to kind of slip through the radar a little bit. I think he could maybe have some value here, and that's what I'm going to be looking for. If he's got value, I'd love to have him on my team. Am I expecting him to return wide receiver 6 value again?
No.
Absolutely not. But if he can give me solid wide receiver 2 production.
Top 12, top 15, top 20.
Exactly. That's what I'm going to go for. He's a guy I'm not going to talk about a whole lot. I will on the podcast, but not in our leagues. Yeah. Because I kind of want to keep him close to the vest and see where he is and see if there's value. All right, let's move on to our top 5 here, Frank. Top 5 wide receivers, 2025. We've got Ja'Marr Chase. He was taken typically as the 101 overall.
Yeah.
Definitely the number 1 wide receiver taken off the board last year. Comes in at number 5. Very interesting, emotional, difficult, exciting, but scared year for Ja'Marr Chase owners. I was one of them, 231 fantasy points, 15.4 points per game. Let's go. Talk about Ja'Marr Chase.
I mean, guys, even though he had a down year in comparison to last year when he won the Triple Crown, set last year to the side, phenomenal year. I mean, it was still a very, very good year.
Talented. He's just
crazy.
Absurd.
I mean, dude, there's very few and far between of guys of that caliber that get it done week in and week out, it feels like. And Ja'Marr's one. Guys, 185 targets. I want to pause there. That's the most in his career in a year. 185 targets. That alone is phenomenal. Then you move to 125 receptions. Guys, the difference is 2 receptions from his Triple Crown year last year to this year. He went from 127 last year to this year 125, but then it became, well, what did he do with those? And a lot of it was this year's a little bit more short yardage. He had 1,400 yards receiving compared to 1,700 last year, and then 8 touchdowns this year compared to 17 last year. Now, again, you want to look at and to have something to point a finger at, like, hey, I wasted my draft capital, drafting 1/1 or 101. You didn't. You honestly didn't. It was a product of the environment, right? When you switch from Joe Burrow going down in week 2, I think it was, or week 3, whatever that was, and then now you have Jake Browning to where it was, John, we were concerned. We were concerned with Browning until Flacco took back over. And then when Flacco took over, you saw him like really ascend once more, and then certainly with Burrow. So for me, man, what's fascinating, again, outside of 4 weeks, he never was worse than top 35. That's insane. Guys, that's really incredible. And outside of that 35th, he didn't have 1 week outside of those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks. Outside of that, he was top 15 every single week. Every single week. That is why you drafted him 101. And you should not be upset with yourself or upset at anything around this drafting Ja'Marr Chase, because he's that guy. For me, man, he's going to be a top 3 receiver next year, and I think you draft him accordingly.
He has to be. I mean, let's take away the targets. I know I've talked a lot about targets.
Crazy.
His targets are insane. Okay?
185 is insane.
Yeah. But even the game targets, if you look at catches, let's look at actual catches, not the targets. 14, 10, 16 catches, 12 catches, 10 catches. I mean, he had a game with 23 targets, Frank.
That's crazy.
I don't know that I've ever even heard of shit like that before.
Crazy.
This is on a talented team as well. So, yeah, it's crazy. I mean, he's what we were hoping Justin Jefferson would have done this year with shitty quarterback play.
Yeah. Yes. That's exactly it.
It really is. And Ja'Marr Chase is that guy. So you're right. I mean, top 3, no matter what, pull him off the board. He's going to perform for you. Just awesome having him on your team. All right, let's keep moving on here. Let's get to number 4 within the top 5.
It's crazy.
We got Jorge, man. Jorge Pickens. We've got George Pickens of the Dallas Cowboys. Totally unexpected finish here. We've got, another 15 points above Ja'Marr Chase. Another little teardrop there. 244 total fantasy points, 15.3 points per game. If you would have told me George Pickens was going to have the same per game average as Ja'Marr Chase, I would have laughed in your face in the draft season, man. Yeah, talk about George Pickens. Crazy.
Guys, career year for this guy. He had 137 targets, 93 receptions, 1,400 plus yards receiving, and 9 touchdowns. Guys, he was exactly what that Dallas Cowboys offense needed, especially when CeeDee Lamb got hurt. He stepped in and looked marvelous. And then even when CeeDee Lamb was there, he was still kind of that 1A, 1B approach with CeeDee. For me, man, he's interesting because this is a guy that will most certainly be rising up the ADP draft board. And so for me, do we believe George Pickens? Do we actually believe that this guy is going to be a perennial top 10 guy? I don't know. I really don't know. We could see this being another year of Puka and Davante is what it will be next year for that of CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens. It could certainly be that. Mm-hmm. Or it could be more along the lines of a T. Higgins, Ja'Marr Chase, to where there's a little bit more separation there, right? Ja'Marr Chase being potentially CeeDee Lamb, that of George Pickens being that of T. Higgins. And either way, you're happy with that. The problem is assuming where the ADP is going to be. Again, John, we haven't seen it yet. We don't know where this is going to drop. But let's say he is going to need to be drafted as a top 10 receiver and is your surefire receiver 1. Do you trust that?
Absolutely not.
Same.
Absolutely
That's
not.
the point.
This could easily, just a one small change with this offense, whether it's an OC or anything, this could be what you look at with A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith.
True.
Now, would you be happy drafting those guys in the top 3 rounds?
No.
Absolutely not. You wouldn't. You don't want to anchor your team on that. So it's volatile. It could be Puka Davante, but it could be A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith.
It could be.
Which is all about value at that point. So George Pickens is one of those guys where I just think the value will be too high. He might be one of those guys off my board just because of positioning, not because I don't think he's good.
Totally.
Just because you're probably going to have to draft him maybe as your wide receiver 1 or drafting 2 receivers very early in the top 3 rounds, which I don't know. It's going to depend on my roster construction. But yeah, George Pickens is going to have to be one of those guys you're going to have to look at for sure. Because they could easily flip, and CeeDee Lamb could be number 4.
Easily.
And George Pickens can be down, maybe top 20 still. Maybe even top 10 still. But you're just going to have to be ready for that.
John, if the ADP comes up and you're seeing CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens right next to each other, who would you choose next year to draft? Let's just say Malik Neighbors. I meant CeeDee Lamb and that of.
I know.
Jordan.
My point is, if they're next to each other, it's because nobody knows what to do, and
True.
I pick somebody completely different.
Oh, dude. And Malik Neighbors, by the way, for those listening and watching, is right now projected a second rounder. Baby. I want a piece of that all day. But yeah, it's interesting. But if you're staring at them, which people are going to be, who would you choose?
If I'm staring at him, I take CeeDee Lamb.
Same.
Yeah, I mean, it's tried and true. He is the alpha.
Yep.
He had an up and down year with some injuries and things. George Pickens took full advantage of that. But yeah, I mean, CeeDee Lamb can do a lot of things that George Pickens can't do.
Sure.
Pickens got a lot of touchdowns this year. CeeDee Lamb plays a lot in the slot, moves around the field.
Yep.
They do a lot of screens and different things with him. I just think the upside is higher with CeeDee Lamb.
Yep.
All right, let's get to the top three here, Frank. There's the sun god. I was wondering where he was going to be here. Amon-Ra St. Brown coming in at number 3 of the Detroit Lions. Amon-Ra was drafted as number 4, came in at number 3. This is just a guy you don't have to worry about, man. 246 total points, 15.4 fantasy points per game. Talk to me about the sun guy.
Guys, he might be the most consistent player that we've seen in the last 3 years. Not exaggerating. Here's why. He's finished number 3 in each of the last 3 years as a receiver. Receiver number 3. Phenomenal. That's almost impossible to do, knowing all of the different things that occur, from injuries to shakeups to coaching changes, everything. He is as stable as it gets. Guys, he had 172 targets. That's the most in his career. 172 targets. He had 117 receptions, second most. He had 1,400 receiving yards, his second most. And he had 11 touchdowns this year, his second most. Guys, for me, and I'm calling it, this was the year I didn't get one piece of Amon-Ra. I've had him for the last 2 years. I will absolutely be drafting Amon-Ra next year. For me, he's just a guy, knowing that he got paid this before this season this year, the way he performed, knowing Ben Johnson's not there, seeing how he was able to overcome this, knowing J-Mo took a step up, knowing that Jahmyr Gibbs was that back out, the number 1 back out of the backfield, especially from a receiving perspective. It didn't matter. Jared Goff found his guy. Amon-Ra is that dude. And for me, man, he is absolutely surefire. And shit, I'll go as crazy as this to say, if you were to decide to take him as your receiver 2 next year, I don't think anybody would give you shit. I don't think anybody should give anybody shit on that, because maybe it's Puka number 1, maybe it's Jamar number 1, but it's going to be Puka, Jamar, Amon-Ra, in my personal opinion, would be those 3 guys. I just don't think that anybody's really close, in my opinion. I know JSN had a phenomenal year. I need to see more of that. I need to see another year of replication before I'm willing to draft JSN at top 5 overall picks, top 6 overall picks in your actual fantasy draft. So for me, man, Amon-Ra is easily the safest guy you can take probably in this draft coming up.
It really is. I'm just really shocked. I mean, we've gone through quarterbacks, tight ends, and running backs, and now we're in the top 3 of receivers. I've never seen this many,
It's incredible.
Just consistently good games. They color-coded. It's all green every game. He got hurt one game in week 13. Other than that week, his lowest week was week 1 with 6 targets.
That's crazy.
Everything else was 7, 8 targets and above for Amon-Ra. And we're talking consistently 13, 8, 12, 13, 18 targets. I mean, man, the guy was
You set it and forget it.
Set it and forget it, and he does everything. He gets the receptions. He's all over the field. He's the possession guy. He gets the touchdowns. He gets fucking everything. He does it all. Fantastic, man. I mean, absolutely. If you took Amon-Ra number 1 overall, I wouldn't laugh at you at all, man.
No.
I wouldn't laugh at you. I'd go, yeah, great move.
Hey,
get a solid,
you're
consistent
stable.
guy. Done. Yeah, you've got a floor of 15 points a game right there. See you later. All right. Sun God, we love you, baby. We loved you all the way since your rookie season, man. We've been with you the whole step of the way. All right, let's get to number 2 here, Frank. We got top 2. These guys had crazy seasons, okay? And by the way, they're almost interchangeable. We're talking, based on these rankings and a half PPR, Frank, it's half point separates these 2 guys. It's crazy. We're talking about Jackson Smith and Igbuka. JSN, number 2 wide receiver for the Seattle Seahawks, 289 fantasy points. Amon-Ra had 246. So let's look at that teardrop there. 8 13.1 points per game. It went from 15 points a game to 18 points a game. Talk about JSN, man. I didn't give him enough respect.
I didn't either.
I apologize, JSN. My bad, bro. My bad.
Hey.
But you know what? You got it now. You got the spotlight. So what are we going to do with him?
John, let me tell you, he was actually a guy that was off my board. I'll own it.
Same.
I'll own
Same.
it. And it was because I didn't trust Darnold coming in. I just didn't. I wasn't sure Darnold was going to be a one-year wonder from the Vikings. History has shown that Darnold has struggled, and then maybe it was a Kevin O'Connell thing that changed quite a bit. And then the last we saw of Darnold, he threw 4 picks. And then he gets traded then or picked up then by Seattle. And it was like, okay, can JSN really truly be a receiver one knowing Darnold is throwing the ball? Like, I struggled with it.
And they had just gotten rid of DK. They had just gotten rid of Tyler Lockett.
You bring on Cooper Kupp.
Is he going to be the one?
Yeah.
What are we doing? You know, we weren't sure.
And so, guys, there was a point in time to where he was so far above everybody else to where he was trending to beating Calvin Johnson's record. And so that's how special of a year this was. Guys, 163 targets, 119 receptions, almost 1,800 yards receiving, and 10 receiving touchdowns. Here's what's even crazier. 15.07 was his yards per catch, which means every catch just about he had was over 15 yards, which means in full PPR, that's 2.5 points per catch. That's insanity. That's absolutely, when you put it like that, that's ridiculous. So, I mean, just an incredible season, man. What he showed was he gave a big F you to all the non-believers. And for guys like me that I said, no, he's off my board, I'm not taking him in the 3rd or 4th round. Well, guys, that was because, again, I thought that was too rich. Now, here's the question. Now it's a 1st round. And so now are you willing to take him as your 1st round pick? And for me, a lot of guys would say, well, shit, yeah, look at what he did. But again, through my eyes, it's really difficult for me to trust him to this caliber. Again, I'm not saying don't draft him in the 2nd round if he falls, which he's not. Or in the 3rd round, that's where I would love to take him this year. You're not going to be able to get him there. Same difference with that of George Pickens. I had the same feeling. Am I willing to pay a premium to draft a guy who's done it 1 year? The answer for me is no. I'm personally not, but others will be. But either way, an insane fantasy football year for that of JSN.
9 games over 100 yards. 4 additional games in the 90s.
Crazy.
Yeah. The guy almost had 13 games over 100 yards. Man.
Absolutely incredible.
It all depends on what changes with this team next year.
Yeah.
If there's not many changes to this team, you've got to respect the JSN target share.
Sure.
I mean, unless they bring a strong receiver out there, that's when I'll get a little iffy. They bring another guy out there. Cooper Kupp obviously wasn't that guy. They do that, then I'll be nervous. But if nothing changes, I mean, yeah, I'm going to put him right there with Nico Collins, right in that area. Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors, I think he belongs there in that area. So we'll see. But again, you're right. When you have a season like this, that's just astronomical and historical. It really screws the ADP for the next year. Yeah, absolutely. All right, let's get to the number 1 guy here, buddy. Number 1 with a bullet. My God, can we just stop with just not considering him as one of the best receivers in the league? Of course he is. Puka Nakua, man. Number 1 for the Los Angeles Rams. 289.5, half a point above Jackson Smith and Jigba. But look at this, man. 19.3 points per game.
Crazy.
19 points per game. Let's go. Talk about Puka.
Guys, historic year for him. He had 166 targets, 129 receptions, 1,715 yards receiving, and 10 receiving touchdowns. Guys, here's the other thing. Puka also does it on the ground as well. He had a rushing touchdown to add to this and 105 yards rushing. So it brought his total to over 1,800 total yards. Guys, Puka Nakua is really the honey badger of the NFL. I know that Tyrann Mathieu, years ago, that was the safety, right? He was considered the honey badger. No. A honey badger's damn near indestructible. And what Puka brings to the table, man, he is a mix of Hines Ward, mentality, just the nastiness of blocking and wanting to hurt somebody, it feels like, mixed with the finesse of a JSN, if I'm being honest with you. There's just something about his movement. It's like Premier Cooper Kupp meets anger, and that becomes the product of Puka Nakua. And so for me, man, like, I am all about Puka. If you want to take him number 1 overall, do it. Do it. Because he's only going to get better. We're talking, this kid is 24 years old. This was his 3rd NFL season. He has the opportunity in this style of offense, with this type of quarterback, with the type of offensive line, the running backs that he has, and Davante Adams alongside of him, to be special for years to come. So for me, man, there's not much more to say other than you can never draft Puka high enough. That's my point.
Absolutely. You got to take, I mean, if you want to take Puka as the top guy, top receiver, number 1 overall even.
Do it.
By all means, do it. It's crazy. He had a historic rookie season 2 years ago where he was the wide receiver, 4. He blew those stats out of the water this year, guys. He crushed it in yardage, he crushed it in receptions, and in touchdowns. And then he's like, fuck it, I'll run for 100 and then score a touchdown as well.
Crazy.
The guy did everything. I mean, he was, who were you comparing him to? You were talking about, he reminds you of somebody.
So I was saying Hines Ward. Hines Ward with, like, the mentality. John, you remember this.
He's Hines Ward with a Cam Scatterbo attitude. You know, like, he is that as a receiver. And I love that, man.
And he like when Cooper Kupp won the Triple Crown, right? The way Cooper Kupp moved, it was different than Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase was pure speed. He's going to beat you off the ball, and it's going to be an absolute bomb downfield, and it's going to be beautiful. Cooper Kupp, he was slicing you up. That's how he operated. That's where he won when he won the Triple Crown. So you take what Cooper Kupp did from a route running perspective and the ability to catch in traffic, and then you mix that with a Hines Ward mentality, that is a unique unicorn. That might be just as much of a unicorn, this is a hot take, as maybe Calvin Johnson was from a physical perspective. Like Calvin Johnson, 6'5", 6'6", massive dude. He's being triple covered. Literally, there's the quintessential him against the Saints, and the Saints had 3 DBs on him getting off the line. Puka, in a sense, is just as much of a unicorn because he's not the fastest. He's not the strongest. He's not, the biggest guy, the tallest guy. Yet he's mean, he's angry, he's physical, he's a badass, he's a team leader, and he's incredible at what he does. So for me, man, I love Puka, and I'm all on board, baby.
I just fall in love with receivers who do not go out of bounds.
Yeah.
Who catch the ball and lower their fucking head and deliver a blow.
Yep.
And, he's got that reputation and that mentality. Guys think twice when he catches the ball across the middle. I love it. Great season for Puka Nakua, number 1 with a bullet in the top 20. Guys, that is the top 20 receivers, fantasy finishes for the Frankly Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us, guys. Frankie, what do we have coming up here? Season's almost done, baby.
Guys, we're winding down. Gonna hibernate for just a few months. But before we do, guys, here's what's going on. We're gonna be dropping another episode next week. And this episode is going to be reviewing, okay, where do we kind of starting to see this 2026 ADP happening? Are there some guys that we're targeting? Is there guys that we kind of are straying from? We're going to start digging in just ever so slightly, a couple ideas leading into 2026. And then get ready, guys, because Johnny and I, we don't stop. What I mean by this is we're already doing research on these rookies coming into the NFL draft. We're getting ready to understand who the free agents that are coming out to get you ready in the summertime. So as much as we will miss you guys after next episode, trust me, stay in touch because I'll be sharing stuff on social media. And come June, we are going to be hitting it harder than ever before. And we are here for you to get you ready for 2026.
I can't wait. Let's go, baby. May the fantasy gods smile upon you. Bye.